Now, 13 years ago, James Hodgkinson was hit with a single punch on a night out in Nottingham. A few days later, he died because of a bleed on his brain.
The teenager who threw that punch, Jacob Dunne, was sentenced to 30 months in prison. He was released after 13 months. And that's when Jacob decided to turn his life around. Through a rehabilitation charity, Jacob has met James's parents to talk about what happened that night. And now their incredible story of forgiveness is being made into a play. Let's take a look.
I'm sorry.
The cast, currently rehearsing for Punch at the Nottingham Playhouse, are being advised by Jacob Dunne because this is his life story.
It feels slightly bizarre, but humbling at the same time to know that such care is being taken. We're exploring an untraditional villain, but I'm also somebody that learnt from my lessons and tried to repair the harm. And what message I hope comes out of it is that there's light at the end of the tunnel.
This is where that story began 13 years ago, a single punch in a drunken brawl. Jacob's victim, James Hodgkinson, was visiting Nottingham. James never recovered. So Jacob didn't expect this, being supported after leaving jail by his victim's own mother.
Yes, I've forgiven Jacob for doing what he done. I know now that he didn't do it with any intent to my son.
And it is mainly young men, isn't it?
Joan's being played by a former Coronation Street star in a story that's dramatised by the Nottinghamshire playwright James Graham.
This is right up there for me as one of the favourite characters I've played. I know that bereaved parents often start campaigning, but to do it with the person, the perpetrator, and for that message to be about connection and not division. Well, for me, I feel like that's exactly what the world needs right now.
Proved to you.
And David is playing Jacob, who's watching it all from the wings.
I was asking you earlier, that was it a bit of an out-of-body experience? And I think you said that it was at times.
Yeah, a little bit at times. It's a little bit strange, but you know what's important is the story that we're trying to tell.
The play's based around several of Nottingham's landmarks.
Welcome to the Meadows.
This subway in Jacob's own neighbourhood inspired the design for the set.
This is your story, but where's the victim? Where's James Hodgkinson in all of this?
Well, I like to think that, you know, James, in a funny way, lives on through me. We're trying to create a legacy. It's something that I'll have to deal with for the rest of my life.
Jacob hopes Punch encourages more people to have difficult conversations. A story of forgiveness, redemption and hope.
That report from Jeremy Ball.
Well, we're joined now on the sofa by the people behind this play. Jacob Dunne is here, along with James's mum, Joan Scourfield. Morning to both of you. The writer of Punch, James Graham, is here, along with the actor Julie Hesmondhalgh, who we just saw in that piece as well. Morning to both of you.
Morning.
Jacob, should we start with you? I mean, it's a strange situation you find yourself in, isn't it? When your life, that moment in your life, becomes a drama. What's it like to see it being reported and covered in this way?
Again, like I said in that piece there, it's bittersweet, really, in a way. I wish I wasn't in that position. I wish I wasn't in this position, but at the same time, grateful that we're able to kind of use it as a positive and spread the message that's important to us and try and create healthier cultures where people can be more responsible and think before they act and speak. And lots of the themes in the play that we want to explore.
And Joan, I'm sure lots of people will be watching you in that piece and this morning and wondering how you got here, you know, what the process is, because it's really quite incredible.
Yeah, it's been a long journey. We've had lots of support, victim support, restorative justice, forgiveness project. They've all supported us through this. It's not a journey we started, you know, to get to the end here. It started with just questions of that night, really. And then we asked Jacob what was he going to do with his life now. And I think he was a bit shocked.
Just a bit.
How did that go? You know, when you heard that Joan was curious to know how is your life going to go now?
Yeah, that was a big moment for me. because I wasn't somebody that cared about myself. I wasn't somebody that cared about how I felt, and that's why I was hurting myself and other people. And to get just that little inch of compassion and curiosity towards me from the people I'd hurt the most was what made me start to lean into how I was feeling and want to be more vulnerable and do the work on myself, and that kind of, yeah.
So meeting Joan was so important for you. What about you, Joan? Because I think a lot of people in your position, or trying to imagine being in your position, would think that they would struggle to meet Jacob.
I say it was over a long period. First, for it with restorative justice, they came to us and went to Jacob mediation, and then we agreed a time when it was ready to meet. Jacob went into education. He's turned his life around completely.
That first meeting, where did it happen? What, take us there?
That was somewhere in Suffolk. I can't remember exactly where, but I was living in Suffolk at the time. Jacob was brought down to Suffolk, and we sat in the room ready, and Jacob walked into the lion's den.
Lion's den.
Well, that's how he must have felt to him.
Yeah. Is that how it felt?
Yeah, it was very difficult to walk into there knowing the people that are in there and the conversation that you're about to have and to the things that you're going to have to listen to. But I wanted to listen to them. I wanted to show that I was doing everything I could to try and repair the harm and to make sure that I heard exactly what Joan and David needed to tell me, and that I could look at them in the eye and acknowledge that.
James, restorative justice is something that normally will go along behind closed doors, and we might never really hear very much about it. How important was it for you that this should be public-facing, should be out there for everybody to see this example of how it might work?
Really important. I mean, I was very unfamiliar with it as a concept, like I think a lot of people. And when I first came across the story, I'm a Nottingham-born writer as well, and when I heard Jacob's story and Joan's story, I was so moved by it, and the capacity for people in their lowest moment to be the best version of themselves, not getting rid of, but dealing with that anger and that pain and turning it into forgiveness and something positive, a desire for the people who harm you to change, and Jacob's desire to do something with his life. I find it so moving when you talk about it. So, but you're right, as a process, I think people don't know normally how it works. Normally stories about the criminal justice system are all about punishment and enforcement. This is about dealing with your pain and how you move on from that. And so we've been working with the people who helped Joan and Jacob. And it's a very incredible system. It's not just like you put people in a room and hope it goes okay. I think your process was 2.5 years of mediation. There were guidelines, best practice, so that when you finally get into that room and try and go on that journey together, it's all been incredibly well handled. So to put that on stage, I think as a process, I think an audience will hopefully find it incredibly inspiring and moving.
Yeah, and talk us through the process as well, James, of turning such an intense, real-life, real people matter of record into a drama on stage. How do you go about translating it like that?
Yeah, you have to work with the people involved, and you have to sort of get their permission. It's not my story, it's not my pain, it's their pain. And I take that responsibility very seriously. I've had some experience in the past. I did a BBC drama, Sherwood, also set in Nottingham, where you have to work with those involved. And I think it's about honesty and transparency. Obviously, I think they understand as well that we're trying to engage an audience in this story. So you do have to do certain things as artists that include, even dare I say, entertainment. You have to sort of tell a story that is inspiring and interesting. There is humour in the darkness. There is great performances. And so you have to, but I think that the first thing you do is you have to engage. You can't do these stories in spite of people. You have to do it, if you can, with them.
And Julie, I cannot imagine that the role of Joan is an easy one to take on, or one that you would take on without really thinking about how you approach this, because it is a challenge, isn't it?
Challenge, yeah. I mean, I feel...
It's a responsibility,
It's a responsibility, but it's an honour, you know, it really is, because one of the most wonderful things about this job is when you get to meet amazing people, not just Jacob and Joan, but Nicola from Remedy, the restorative justice charity, you know, and hear about how she got into it and about what they're trying to achieve from it. And so to be, when you've got brilliant writing like James as well, you know, it's a really wonderful thing. But yes, you definitely feel it is. I know it's a word that gets bandied around a lot, humbling, but it is a humbling thing to do it. And we hope that people come away from it. I think these are very divided times, and I feel like anything that is about us having conversations and connecting and crossing that divide in whatever way is so helpful and useful right now. And yeah, so we're very, very happy to be telling this story. And like James says, you know, it sounds like it's a very difficult subject matter, and of course it is in many ways, but it is hopefully going to be a beautiful piece of theatre as well that celebrates Nottingham and celebrates the sort of like the world that Jacob still is living in and is from, you know. So it's it's a great thing to be part of.
Julie, what kind of conversations did you have with Joan as you were preparing for this?
Well, very few actually. I mean, I've had fewer conversations with Joan than I ever have before when I've been playing a real person, which I've done a few times before. So we had a drink last night, didn't we, Joan? And only one. And that was really great. And we had a Zoom with Joan and James's dad, David, as well, and talked a bit about that. But it was really, really lovely to meet up with Joan last night and just have a good gossip, actually, and a good talk about things. And yeah.
But it's a special connection you have, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a strange connection. We're both very aware that it's really weird, you know, for me to turn up and just be like, so I'm playing you. And whenever we're talking about the character of Joan, it's like, I, you, she, you know, it's like that person, the character exists, you know, within those three things. And yeah, but it's
all for the right reason.
Well, we hope so. We hope so. And there's a lot of awareness raising we want to be doing with the play around One Punch, which is a very common phenomenon that people don't know about. The Forgiveness Project, the restorative justice system itself, which has very low take-up in Nottingham in particular. So, you know, we're really hoping that people be inspired, but also, like James so brilliantly says, about the criminal justice system itself and how punitive it is, and how we've got it into our heads that, you know, to giving any people who are going through criminal justice any sense of, well, redemption or counselling or help in turning their lives around is seen as a soft option. And it isn't, you know, it also, like, it cuts down reoffending, it makes the world a better place.
And Jacob, who do you hope sees this? I wonder if, you know, if a young Jacob had seen something like this, might it have changed the way you felt about yourself? Yeah,
I think I'm getting as many young people down as I can, all the schools, all the local colleges, people who've been in custody before, but it's also about a message for parents, you know, of children at risk of offending, but it's also professionals, because this is about how do we create healthier cultures that allows people like me who didn't know how to express how I felt, didn't know how to talk, didn't know how to be in touch with my feelings and express myself healthily, so we can create cultures where people can be supported to learn those skills. You know, I feel that, you know, school should be a place where we leave with emotional literacy. And if we can, that's the big thing for me, is just creating cultures where young men in particular are able to express themselves healthily and have these conversations more openly and have trusted adults that they can open up about their feelings, so it doesn't all get bottled up. 50% of all violent crime is alcohol related. You know, we want to shine a light on that. Why are people bottling it up and it coming out at the weekends? You know, why aren't we having these conversations around the dinner table? Why isn't this more normal about us resolving conflict and having those conversations?
Joan's nodding. Yeah. Thank you all so much for coming in. It's an important subject. It sounds like a fascinating project as well. The play is called Punch. It runs at the Nottingham Playhouse from the 4th of May till the 25th of May.